Look, I'm going to be honest with you. My name is Krell, and 3 rotations ago, I thought I knew what war was. I'd aced every tactical simulation at the Galactic Military Academy, top of my class. 17 species represented in our cohort, and yours truly from Vexari Prime had the highest scores in strategic planning, combat theory, and threat assessment. I was absolutely certain I was destined for greatness. Then came Orientation Day 7, the day they showed us Earth. Our instructor, a 4-armed Quellan named Orcs, walked into the amphitheater with this weird expression. Do you know that look someone gets when they're about to show you something that fundamentally breaks your understanding of reality?
Yeah.
That one. Cadets, Orcs announced, his voice doing that gravelly thing it does when he's stressed. Today we're covering species 7842, commonly known as humans, from planet Earth. Third rock from their sun. They applied for Galactic Coalition membership last cycle. My buddy Threx, this massive Kragoth who could bench press a transport shuttle, leaned over. Humans? Never heard of them. Are they those tiny furred things from Sector 9? Different species, I whispered back. These ones are supposedly primitive, just achieved faster than light travel recently. Then why are we studying them? That was Mira, a Xanthari whose species had been spacefaring for 12,000 years.
She had this dismissive tone that, well, we all kind of shared.
Primitive species were boring. We studied them like you'd study ancient history. Mildly interesting, ultimately irrelevant. Vorx's expression got somehow more uncomfortable. Because, he said slowly, tapping his datapad, High Command has designated them Category Omega. The amphitheater went silent. Category Omega. That's the classification reserved for species that pose existential threats to galactic stability. The Hive Lords were Category Omega. The Void Wraiths before they got exterminated were Category Omega. There were exactly 7 Category Omega species in known space, and most of them were ancient, technologically superior nightmares with planet-destroying weapons. Sir, I raised my hand. There must be some mistake.
You said they just got FTL.
How could a species that primitive be dangerous? Vorts made this clicking sound that passes for a bitter laugh among Quellans. Let me show you. What you're about to see is compiled footage from Earth's own historical records, specifically, their military conflicts. I should warn you that what we're about to watch has caused psychological distress in 37% of cadets who viewed it. Counseling services are available after class. You may leave now if you wish. No penalties. Nobody moved. We were warriors in training. We didn't scare easily. Sweet merciful void. We should have run. The lights dimmed. The holographic display activated, showing a blue and green planet. Pretty. Actually. Lots of water. Nice atmosphere. Looked peaceful. This is Earth, Vorks continued. Home to approximately 8 billion humans. They've had spaceflight capacity for less than 100 of their years. Fusion power for 60. They've never encountered another intelligent species until 6 months ago, when they detected our probe in their system. Threx snorted.
8 billion, and they're just now leaving their planet. What took them so long?
They were busy, Vork said dryly. Busy fighting each other. In the last 100 Earth years alone, they've engaged in 2 planetary-scale conflicts, countless regional wars, and more than 400 documented armed conflicts. Their entire recorded history, spanning approximately 6,000 years, is essentially one continuous war interrupted by brief periods they call peace. Okay, that was unusual, but not shocking. Lots of species had rough pre-spaceflight periods. We Vexari had the clan wars. The Kragoth had their trials of blood. Growing pains. Let's start with something recent, Vork said. A small-scale conflict by human standards. They called it the Battle of Mogadishu, 19 of their years ago. The hologram shifted, showing an urban environment, primitive buildings, narrow streets. Then the footage started, and I swear on my ancestors' honor, I felt my throat sacs constrict. A handful of human soldiers, maybe 15, surrounded in a building by what the overlay indicated was a force of thousands. Not soldiers, the display clarified. Armed civilians mostly, and these humans, these supposedly primitive beings, they just didn't stop. Bullets? Kinetic weapons, absolutely archaic technology were coming from every direction. The humans were bleeding, taking hits that should have incapacitated them, and they kept fighting. One of them took a projectile through the leg, fell, and then used his position on the ground to better aim at targets while his companion tried to stop the bleeding. He kept shooting, while hemorrhaging, calmly calling out targets. Note, Vorks commented over the sounds of gunfire, that human physiology includes a chemical response to extreme stress called adrenaline. It allows them to temporarily ignore pain, increase strength, and maintain focus during life-threatening situations. They essentially become more dangerous when injured. That's insane, Mira whispered. It got worse. Much worse. The next clip showed something called World War I, trench warfare. I watched as millions of humans charged across open ground into machine gun fire.
Not because they were stupid. They knew they'd die.
The tactical displays showed they had full knowledge that advancing meant probable death, and they did it anyway. Orders were given, and humans climbed out of relative safety to run into certain death. Thousands died in single days, or not in glorious space battles or honorable single combat. They drowned in mud, got shredded by artillery, choked on poison gas, and the next day, more humans lined up to do it again. Pause, someone called out.
It was Jex, Nari, who prided himself on being unshakable.
His skin had gone pale blue, which for his species indicated shock. Why would they follow those orders? Surely their survival instincts should override obedience to command. Vorks's face did something complicated. Humans have a cultural concept they call duty, also honor, loyalty, and sacrifice. These override their survival instincts regularly. They'll die for abstracts, for flags, for pieces of land, for ideas. He unpaused the footage. World War II started playing. The scope of it hit me like a plasma blast. 60 million dead, entire cities reduced to ash, humans fighting in frozen wastelands, burning deserts, dense jungles, and across thousands of islands. They fought underwater in submarines, in the air in primitive aircraft, on the ground in machines they called tanks. There was footage of something called D-Day, humans in boats, approaching a beach, knowing the beach was covered with defensive positions. The first boats landed, and the humans inside were cut down almost instantly. The boats behind them kept coming, and the next wave, and the next. They took horrific casualties, and didn't stop. They climbed over their own dead to advance. Sir, I heard myself saying, this isn't warfare, this is mass suicide. From a logical standpoint, yes. Vorks agreed. Humans don't fight logically, they fight emotionally. With determination, with something they call spite. I'll show you what I mean. The next series of clips broke something in my understanding of reality. A human pilot, his aircraft crippled and burning, steering it deliberately into an enemy ship rather than ejecting to safety. Dozens of instances of this. They called them kamikaze. Humans purposefully dying to take enemies with them. Soldiers throwing themselves on grenades to save their companions. Not occasionally, routinely. It happened so often they had medals specifically for that sacrifice. A medic, clearly marked as non-combatant medical personnel, running through active fire to drag wounded soldiers to safety, taking multiple hits, dying while trying to save others. A single human, with a machine gun holding a position against hundreds of enemy soldiers, allowing his unit to retreat. He knew he wouldn't survive. Did it anyway. Took 60 enemies with him before he fell. The footage kept coming. Vietnam, Benghazi, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. Conflicts I couldn't even pronounce. Humans fighting in every environment their planet offered. Adapting, surviving, winning through sheer bloody-minded refusal to quit. Brix had stopped making jokes. Mira was visibly shaking. Half the class looked sick. Then Vorks showed us something different. This is from their entertainment media. Fictional, but it reveals their psychology. A scene played out. A human soldier, surrounded by aliens, by hostile forces, outnumbered, outgunned. The enemy commander offers mercy if he surrenders. And this fictional representation of human nature, he just smiles and says one word. No. Then he fights, against impossible odds. And through plot armor or luck or whatever, he wins. This, Vorks said, represents an accurate model of human threat response. They don't surrender easily. They don't give up when logic dictates they should. They have stories, legends, cultural narratives spanning thousands of years, all teaching the same lesson. Keep fighting. Never quit. Death before defeat. Another clip. A movie called 300, humans fighting a vastly superior force. They lose. They all die. And somehow the story treats this as a victory because they made the enemy pay for every inch of ground. That's glorifying death, someone protested. Yes, Vork said simply. They do that, frequently. The next section focused on human durability. Medical footage showed injuries that should have been fatal, humans surviving blood loss that would kill most species, recovering from wounds that would cripple others. There was documented evidence of humans continuing to fight after losing limbs, after being set on fire, after being shot multiple times in vital areas. One particular piece of footage showed a human soldier in something called the Medal of Honor citation. He'd been hit by enemy fire 76 times, and he'd continued fighting for hours before dying, long enough to save his entire unit. This is biological impossible, Mira stated flatly. And yet, Vorks gestured at the screen, likable, times. Humans are persistence predators, evolved to chase prey to exhaustion over long distances. Their homeworld is a death planet by our standards, gravity 0.98 standard, which doesn't sound bad until you realize they evolved under it, making them naturally stronger than most spacefaring species. Extreme temperature variations, aggressive megafauna, pathogens everywhere. Their entire evolutionary history is survival through sheer endurance. The presentation shifted to human weapons development. In just the last century, they'd gone from single-shot rifles to nuclear weapons, from biplanes to stealth bombers, from horses to tanks to orbital strike capability. Note the timeline. Vorke's highlighted dates. 52 years from first powered flight to landing on their own moon. Humans don't progress incrementally. They leap forward when pressured, usually by warfare. War drives their innovation. Someone asked the question we were all thinking. What happens if someone attacks Earth? Vorse was quiet for a long moment. High Command ran simulations. 40,000 iterations. Various scenarios. Overwhelming force. Strategic strikes. Blockades, occupation attempts. Want to know the results? We nodded, though I wasn't sure I wanted to hear this. Humans have a saying. You can't conquer a people who refuse to be conquered. Every simulation resulted in either human victory through attrition or mutual destruction. Even when we granted the attacking force overwhelming technological superiority, humans adapted. They learned. They stole technology. They turned weapons against their users. In simulations where we glassed their planet from orbit, the survivors somehow found ways to strike back. They're vindictive, patient. They'll wait generations for revenge. The amphitheater was dead silent. There's more? Vorks continued, and I wanted to scream because how could there possibly be more? Humans bond with other species, deeply. They have a long history of domesticating other creatures from their world. When they bond, they're loyal beyond reason. We have intelligence suggesting that if humanity joins the coalition, and were subsequently attacked, humans wouldn't just fight for their own species. They'd fight for all of us, to the death, because that's what they do for those they consider allies, friends, or pack. Another video. This one was recent. The first contact scenario. A human diplomat meeting with coalition representatives. The humans had been told, professionally, and clearly, that they were technologically inferior, that joining the coalition meant accepting a junior status, that they'd need to prove themselves worthy. And this human, this diplomat, she'd smiled and said, "We've spent our entire history fighting each other. We've gotten very, very good at fighting. We sincerely hope we never have to show you how good. But if your coalition has enemies, they're about to have a very bad time, because humans don't abandon friends, we don't fight fair, and we absolutely don't quit." It should have sounded like a boast, like primitive posturing. But after everything we'd seen, it sounded like a promise. Or a threat. The lights came up. Half the class looked traumatized. A few were crying, which I didn't think was possible for some of those species. Vorkes surveyed us with something resembling sympathy.
Counseling is in room 47. Dismissed.
Except you, Krell. Stay behind, please. The others filed out. Some quickly, some in a daze. Threekas grabbed my shoulder as he passed. "I'm reconsidering my career choices," he muttered. It was no joke. When the room cleared, Vorks approached me. "You're thinking about resigning, aren't you?" I was. Absolutely I was. Everything I thought I knew about combat, about warfare, about honor and tactics and reasonable approaches to conflict had just been thrown out in airlock. How do you fight an enemy who won't quit? Who gets more dangerous when hurt? who treats death as an acceptable outcome as long as they take you with them. Sir, I managed. How do we prepare for war alongside beings like that? Or worse, what if we ever end up fighting against them? Vorks's expression was grim. High Command is hoping we never have to answer that second question. As for the first, that's why you're watching this. Better to know what humans are before they arrive. They'll be here next month. 3 ships carrying their first military exchange program. My voice came out small. How many humans? 300. 300. Just 300. And I was terrified. Can I be honest with you, Cadet? Orcs asked, and I nodded, because what else could I do? I've been teaching xenobiology and combat theory for 20 years. I've studied every major species in Coalition space. Humans scare me. Not because they're aggressive, they're actually quite friendly by all accounts. They scare me because they don't seem to understand how terrifying they are. They think they're normal. They think every species fights like they do. They're going to arrive here expecting to be the underdogs, the primitive newcomers, and they have no concept that they're actually the monster under everyone else's bed. He handed me a data pad. This is supplementary material. Personal accounts from human soldiers, poetry, music, art created during and about war. Read it if you want to understand them better, or don't, and turn in your resignation. No judgment either way. About 40% of cadets who see this presentation wash out within the week. I took the pad with numb hands. What do you think I should do? Vorka's forearms spread in what might have been a shrug. I think humanity is joining the coalition whether we're ready or not. I think the universe is about to get very interesting. And I think warriors should stand beside warriors, even if those warriors are absolutely insane by any reasonable definition. He left me alone in the amphitheater, holographic images of human warfare still flickering in my mind. I looked down at the datapad, opened the first file. It was a poem by someone named Wilfred Owen, written during that First World War. Something about dulce et decorum, estimated. I started reading, and I realized this human, this soldier poet,
He knew war was horrible.
he knew it was brutal and ugly and traumatic, and humans did it anyway. Wrote beautiful, terrible things about it, mourned their dead, honored their sacrifices, and then did it all again when needed. My communicator buzzed. Message from Thrix. Going to counseling. All then, probably resigning. This is beyond me, Krell. How about you? They stared at the message for a long time, then at the poem on my datapad, then at the empty amphitheater, where I'd just witnessed humanity's bloody history. Finally, I typed back. I'm staying. Someone needs to be ready when they get here. Because, here's the thing about watching footage of humans fighting, dying, never surrendering, turning impossible situations into victories through sheer refusal to accept defeat. It's terrifying, yes. Absolutely nightmare-inducing. But part of me, the part that joined the military to protect people, to stand against threats, to be brave when it mattered, that part was thinking that having humans on our side might be the best thing that ever happened to the coalition. And the part of me that was still sane was praying to every deity in known space that we never ever ended up on their bad side. 300 humans, arriving in 1 month. I had 4 weeks to prepare myself for meeting the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The species that didn't even know they were dangerous. The species that thought they were just normal, friendly beings who happened to have a bit of a rough history. I finished reading the poem. Then I opened the next file, and the next, if I was going to stand beside humans, fight alongside them, maybe eventually call them friends, I needed to understand them. Even if understanding them meant confronting horror after horror, bravery after bravery, sacrifice after sacrifice. The datapad had thousands of files. This was going to be a long night. Worth it though, because in 1 month 300 humans were arriving, and I absolutely refused to be the idiot who underestimated them. The next 4 weeks were, without exaggeration, the strangest period of my life. While half my class processed their resignation papers and the other half pretended they hadn't been fundamentally broken by what we'd seen, I did something probably stupid. I volunteered to be part of the Human Welcoming Committee. Vorks looked at me like I'd announced plans to swim in a star. You're certain about this? No, sir, I admitted, standing in his office 3 days after the presentation. But someone needs to do it, and it might as well be someone who knows what they're getting into. You don't know what you're getting into, Vorks corrected. None of us do. We've studied their history, their warfare, their capacity for violence, but we haven't met them. There's a difference between watching footage and standing next to a human. Then I'll find out firsthand. I tried to sound confident, probably failed. Besides, you said they're friendly, right? Vorks made that clicking sound again. Friendly? Yes. Also completely unaware of how they're perceived. High Command sent me the preliminary profiles of the 300 humans arriving. Want to know something hilarious and terrifying? I wasn't sure I did, but I nodded anyway. They're nervous. Vorks pulled up a file on his display. The humans are nervous about meeting us. They're worried about making good impressions. They've prepared cultural sensitivity briefings. They've been practicing what they call diplomacy. They think they're the primitive ones who need to prove themselves worthy of the coalition. He zoomed in on one profile. Captain Elena Voss, human female, age 34 standard years, decorated combat veteran with experience in something called special operations. Her service record included 6 tours in hostile territory, 3 commendations for valor, and a brief note that said, excellent at building rapport with local populations. This one, Vorks tapped the image, has 42 confirmed kills in close quarters combat, survived being buried under rubble for 18 hours, and once walked 15 kilometers with a fractured spine to extract her wounded team. According to her psychological evaluation, she's considered extremely stable and personable. But I stared at the profile. The human looked normal. 2 eyes, bilateral symmetry, reasonable proportions. She was smiling in the photo. It was a nice smile, friendly. She'd killed 42 beings in close combat and was considered the stable, friendly one. The humans are sending their best, Vorks continued, scrolling through more profiles. Military personnel, yes, but also teachers, engineers, medical staff, artists. They want to show us their culture, share their knowledge, learn from us. They're approaching this as a genuine cultural exchange. So what's the problem? The problem, cadet, is that their best is still human. Let me show you something.
He pulled up a video file.
This arrived yesterday. Introductory message from the human delegation. The video showed a human male in formal military dress. He had gray hair, weathered features, and eyes that looked tired but kind. Greetings to the Galactic Coalition Military Academy, he said in flawless standard Galactic. They'd learned our language in 6 months. Of course they had. I am Admiral Marcus Webb, commander of the Human Military Exchange Program. On behalf of humanity, I want to express our profound gratitude for this opportunity. He smiled, and it seemed genuine. We know we're the newcomers here. We have much to learn from species who've been exploring the stars for millennia. We hope to prove ourselves worthy allies and friends. We bring our skills, our knowledge, and our commitment to stand with the coalition against any threats. We look forward to meeting you all. The video ended. Vorks looked at me. Seems nice, right? Humble, even? Yes? Admiral Marcus Webb. Vorks read from another file. Served in 7 major conflicts. Has been shot 4 times, stabbed twice, and survived a shuttle crash that killed everyone else aboard. Holds advanced degrees in military strategy, xenobiology, and interestingly, philosophy. Known for being thoughtful, patient, and according to one report, utterly unbreakable in crisis situations. He's 62 standard years old, and according to human metrics, could serve another decade easily. They don't slow down, Krell. They just keep going. I absorbed this information. You're saying even their friendly philosophical admiral is a terrifying combat veteran? That was natural. I'm saying all of them are. Even the teachers have mandatory military service in human society. Even their doctors are trained in combat medicine. Even their engineers can apparently turn anything into a weapon given enough motivation. It's not that they're militaristic as a culture. It's that they exist in a constant state of readiness because their entire history taught them that's how you survive. He closed the files and looked at me seriously. You volunteered for the welcoming committee. I'm approving it, but understand what you're signing up for. You'll be their first contact with coalition military cadets. They'll judge our entire organization based partly on you, and you'll be spending extensive time with beings who think nothing of dying for strangers, who bond deeply and quickly, and who will absolutely notice if you're afraid of them. Should I be afraid of them? Vorkunski centered. This. Be respectful. Be honest. Humans value authenticity. But afraid? That's your choice. Just remember they're probably more afraid of disappointing you than you are of them. That image stuck with me. 300 of the most dangerous beings in known space worried about making a good impression. The remaining weeks passed in a blur. I studied everything I could about Earth, watched more footage, though I had to take breaks because apparently humans had been filming their wars for over a century, and the archive was massive. You've read their literature, listened to their music, tried to understand what made them tick. Mira found me in the library one night, surrounded by data pads. You're still doing this, Krell? It's okay to admit this is beyond you. It's not beyond me, I argued, though I wasn't certain. It's just different. Look at this. I showed her a human film called Saving Private Ryan. They made entertainment about their most traumatic war. They watch this for fun, but it's not glorifying war. It's showing how horrible it is. They're teaching their own children that war is hell. And then they fight anyway. Because they think it's necessary. Because they value things more than their own lives. That's not crazy, Mira. That's just different from how we think. She settled beside me. Her Xenophari. Features thoughtful. I watched some of their comedy yesterday. Did you know humans make jokes about death? Their own deaths? There's an entire genre called dark humor where they laugh about horrible things. It's a coping mechanism. I'd read about this. They experience trauma and process it through humor. Makes it bearable. What kind of species needs mechanisms to make their normal life bearable? She wasn't being mean, just genuinely confused. The kind that evolved on a death planet and decided to not just survive but thrive. Hall pulled up images of Earth. Look at this place. It's beautiful, sure, but it has hurricanes that destroy cities, earthquakes that reshape landscapes, volcanoes, tsunamis, droughts, floods, temperatures that swing from freezing to boiling. And humans just built civilizations anyway. They looked at a hostile planet and said, "This is fine, we'll just adapt." Mira studied the images. I withdrew my resignation yesterday. I looked at her in surprise. Really? Really?
Yeah.
Because I realized something. The galaxy has threats we don't talk about.
True.
Devourer swarms in deep space, the rift entities, species and phenomena that could end civilizations, and we've been handling them, but barely. Now imagine those threats encountering humanity. Imagine some cosmic horror trying to terrorize humans, and humans just getting angry about it. She smiled, and it was slightly manic. I want to see that. I want to watch some ancient evil make the mistake of threatening Earth and discovering that humans are scarier than it is. So I'm staying. And I volunteered for the welcoming committee too. Vorks approved you? He approved 12 of us, said we were either the bravest or stupidest cadets he'd ever taught, possibly both. The day finally came. I stood in the docking bay with 11 other cadets. All of us in dress uniforms. All of us visibly nervous. Vorks was there too, along with Academy Command and about 50 other officials. The entire facility was on alert, though it was framed as ceremonial protocol. The human ships appeared on approach vectors, 3 vessels that looked nothing like Coalition standard designs. They were sleek but functional, clearly built for combat but with aesthetic touches that suggested humans cared about appearance. Names were stenciled on the hulls. Indomitable, Perseverance, Friendship. Of course they named one of their warships Friendship. Of course they did. The Ceres, Tucosaurus, and Tartar. The ships docked with precision that suggested excellent pilots. There was a hiss of atmosphere equalizing, and then the airlocks opened. Admiral Webb emerged first, and my initial thought was that he looked smaller in person. Humans averaged about 1.7 meters tall, shorter than most Coalition species. Webb was maybe 1.8, solidly built but not imposing. Then I met his eyes, and I understood. Size didn't matter. This human had a presence that filled the docking bay, not aggressive, not threatening, just solid, unshakable, like gravity or time, just an elemental fact of existence. He smiled, that same warm expression from the video, and approached the Academy Command. Admiral Webb, United Earth Space Corps, requesting permission to come aboard. Permission granted, Admiral. Welcome to the Galactic Coalition Military Academy. They shook hands, a human gesture that Command had been briefed on. Physical contact to establish trust. Then more humans filed out, and I tried not to stare. They looked so normal, varied in appearance like most species, different skin tones and features, but fundamentally just people. They smiled and looked around with obvious curiosity and excitement. Some were clearly nervous. One young human was practically vibrating with enthusiasm. But he was too. They looked so normal, varied in appearance like most species, different skin tones and features, but fundamentally just people. They smiled and looked around with obvious curiosity and excitement. Some were clearly nervous. One young human was practically vibrating with enthusiasm. Some were clearly nervous. One young human was practically vibrating with enthusiasm. Captain Voss emerged, and I recognized her from the profile. She moved with fluid grace, eyes tracking everything, assessing threats and exits in that casual way professionals have. She caught me watching, and smiled. I tried to smile back, probably looked terrified. The official welcome ceremony proceeded smoothly. Speeches were made. Admiral Webb gave thoughtful remarks about partnership and mutual respect. The Academy commandant responded with equally diplomatic words. Very civilized, very proper. Then came the informal meet and greet, and that's when things got interesting. The young, enthusiastic human made a straight line for our cadet group. Hi. Oh wow, you're Vexari, right? And Zenevari.
Hand.
Is that a Kregoth? I've read so much about all of your species. This is amazing. His energy was infectious and slightly overwhelming. I'm Lieutenant Sam Torres, aerospace engineer and pilot. This is incredible. I can't believe we're actually here. I have about 1 million questions, but I don't want to be rude. Is it okay to ask questions? What's the academy like? How long have you been training? Oh man, I'm doing the thing where I talk too much, aren't I? My friends say I do that when I'm excited. Myra laughed. Actual genuine laughter. You can ask questions. I'm Mira. This is Krell. We're both second-year cadets. Second year. So you've been here a while. You probably know everything. Can you show us around? Are the training facilities as advanced as they look in the brochures? Do you use combat simulators? We have combat simulators, but they're probably primitive compared to yours. Oh, do you want to see pictures of Earth? I brought like 10,000 pictures. He was pulling out a data device before we could answer, showing images of human cities and landscapes. He was genuinely excited to share his homeworld. No arrogance, no superiority, just pure enthusiasm. This is Beijing, one of our largest cities. And this is the Grand Canyon, natural formation. It's breathtaking in person. This is my hometown. Kind of small, but I love it. Oh, and this is my dog. Your what? I asked. My dog. Her name is Biscuit. She's a golden retriever. Dogs are domesticated canines. We've lived with them for like 15,000 years. They're family. I miss her so much. Do you have companion animals? He showed us an image of a furry quadruped with a long tail and a friendly face. It looked harmless. According to my datapad, dogs descended from wolves, apex predators. Humans had taken predators and turned them into loving companions. Because, of course, they had. More humans drifted over. A medic named Dr. Amara Jackson started discussing medical techniques with our Zenthari healing instructor. An engineer named Koji Yamamoto was already sketching designs and comparing notes with our technical staff. A teacher named Marcus Thompson, no relation to the admiral apparently, was asking about educational philosophy. They were friendly, genuinely, disarmingly friendly. They asked questions and actually listened to answers. They shared information freely. They laughed at themselves when they made cultural mistakes. When one human accidentally used an insulting gesture from Kragoth culture, she immediately apologized and asked to learn the correct forms of address. It was words, widrestic widgestu. So, looking as it gulls, entilers, portiontolders, portion. Captain Voss approached me while I was watching this with confusion. Cadet Krell? I'm Elena Voss. I'll be teaching advanced tactics here. Looking forward to working with you. Ma'am, I managed. Welcome to the academy. Thanks. Listen, I know this must be weird for you all. 300 humans showing up, and we're the unknown quantity. If there's anything we can do to make this transition easier, just let us know. We're here to learn and contribute, not to cause problems. She seemed so reasonable, so normal. This was a being who'd survived 18 hours under rubble and killed 42 enemies in close combat. Can I ask you something, ma'am? Sure.
And call me Elena, please.
We watched footage of human military history, combat footage. It was intense. Her expression shifted, becoming more serious but not closed off.
Ah, yeah. I imagine that would be jarring.
Our history is violent. We're not proud of a lot of it, but we don't hide from it either. Was there something specific you wanted to know? Why do you fight like that? Why do humans keep going when they should retreat? Elena considered this carefully. Because retreat means someone else pays the price.
Ew.
Because if we stop, our friends get hurt. Because sometimes the only thing standing between innocent people and terrible outcomes is someone willing to say no. I won't let this happen. We fight hard because we care hard. If that makes sense. It did, and it didn't. You die for abstracts, for ideas. We die for each other. She corrected gently. The ideas matter because they represent how we want to treat each other. Freedom, justice, protection of the innocent. Those aren't abstracts to us. They're the difference between a universe where people can live safely and one where they can't. And yeah, sometimes that means sacrifice. But isn't that what being a warrior is about, standing between danger and those who can't protect themselves? I'd never thought of it that way. Our training focused on tactical superiority, strategic advantage, minimizing casualties including our own. The idea of purposefully accepting casualties for ideology seemed alien. But the way Elena explained it, it wasn't alien at all. It was the purest form of the warrior ethos. Protect others, even at cost to yourself. You're scared of us, she said. And it wasn't accusatory, just observational. I can see it. You're all trying to hide it, but there's this tension. Did Command show you the worst of humanity and forget to mention the best parts? They showed us your wars. Yeah, that would do it. She sighed. Look, humans are capable of terrible violence. We won't deny that. But we're also capable of incredible compassion. We make art and music. We explore because we're curious. We help strangers because it's the right thing to do. We're complicated. Most species are, I imagine. Lieutenant Torres bounced over. Elena, they have gravitational combat simulators. Real ones. Can we try them? Please say we can try them. She smiled at him with obvious affection. Sam, we've been here 30 minutes. Maybe let's settle in before we start breaking their equipment. I wouldn't break it. I'd operate it enthusiastically. That's what you said about the shuttle simulator at home. And you crashed it into a virtual moon. That moon came out of nowhere. Watching them interact, the easy friendship and teasing, made them seem less like terrifying warriors and more like people. Just people who happened to be very good at violence when necessary, but who were also capable of joy and humor and caring about each other. The first day passed in a blur of introductions and facility tours. The humans were impressed by everything, asked endless questions and seemed genuinely honored to be here. They were professional but not stiff, friendly but not overfamiliar. They were trying hard to make good impressions. I see. That night, I found Admiral Webb standing alone on an observation deck looking at the stars. I almost didn't approach, but he noticed me and gestured me over. Beautiful, isn't it? He said, looking at the starfield. We dreamed about this for so long, reaching the stars, meeting other intelligent life. Now we're here, and it's better than we imagined. Admiral, can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you volunteer for this? You could have retired, spent time on Earth. Why come here? He smiled.
Because I'm old enough to remember when we thought we were alone in the universe.
When we looked at the stars and wondered if anyone was out there.
Now we know.
And the answer is yes. There's a whole galaxy of people out there and they're willing to give us a chance. How could I not be part of that? Aren't you worried about how we perceive you? We've seen your history. You know what humans are capable of. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't concerned, he admitted. But I also know that judging any species solely by their worst moments isn't fair. We've done terrible things. We've also done beautiful things. We've fought wars, and we've built peace. We've destroyed, and we've created. We're hoping you'll judge us by our actions here, not just our history. He turned to face me directly. Let me tell you something about humanity. Cadet Krell, we're survivors. We've been through hell on our own planet, mostly hell we created for ourselves. We learned hard lessons about war, about hate, about division, and we're still learning. But we're trying. We're trying to be better. That's all anyone can do, right? Try to be better than we were yesterday. It was such a simple philosophy, such a human way of looking at things. Not perfection, just constant improvement. The other cadets are afraid of you, I said honestly. I know, we knew that would happen. High Command warned us that our military history would precede us. That's okay. Fear can become respect with time, and if not respect, at least understanding. We'll prove ourselves through our actions. That's all we can do. Over the following days, that's exactly what they did. The humans threw themselves into academy life with characteristic intensity. They attended every class, participated in every exercise, volunteered for extra duties. They were tireless, but they were also people. They laughed at jokes, they formed friendships, they shared their food, which was apparently a significant gesture in human culture. Sam Torres started an informal cultural exchange where humans and cadets taught each other games and traditions. Dr. Jackson set up medical training sessions that attracted huge attendance because she explained everything with patience and clarity. Koji Yamamoto started a workshop on improvised engineering that was part genius and part barely controlled chaos. And slowly the fear started fading. Hard to be terrified of someone when they're teaching you their card games and laughing when they lose. Hard to see them as monsters when they're sharing pictures of their families and clearly missing home. Hard to think of them as unbeatable warriors when they're stumbling through learning Vexari grammar and making adorable mistakes. The turning point came 2 weeks in. A scheduled combat exercise. Human cadets versus coalition cadets. Everyone was nervous. This would be the first real demonstration of human combat capabilities outside of historical footage. Captain Vorthak ran the exercise. She split everyone into mixed teams, humans and coalition cadets working together, not humans versus us. Humans with us. Humans with us. The scenario was a hostage rescue. Complex environment, multiple threats, civilian casualties to avoid. Standard stuff, but challenging. I was paired with Sam Torres and a Kragoth named Drell. Sam immediately started analyzing the situation, talking through possibilities. Okay, so we have 3 entry points, but this one's a kill box. We'd get shredded. This one's better, but it's obvious. Maybe we use the obvious one as a distraction, while another team flanks through the difficult route. He looked at us. What do you think? I'm great at flying and okay at shooting, but tactics isn't my strongest area. Drell, you're combat specialized, right? And Krell, you're strategic planning? He was asking for our input, genuinely asking. Not just being polite. We worked together, combining our knowledge. Drell knew the weapon systems. I knew tactical doctrine. Sam had this creative, slightly insane approach to problem solving that involved using equipment in ways it wasn't designed for. We could use the emergency venting system to create a distraction, he suggested. It's not meant for that, but if we overload it here, it'll make noise and smoke, draw attention while we move in from the other side. That's against safety protocols, I pointed out.
It's a simulation.
Sam grinned. And sometimes you have to bend rules to save lives. Real question is, will it work? It worked. Our team rescued the hostages with minimal casualties. Other teams had similar success, using combinations of coalition doctrine and human creativity. The exercise wasn't about humans showing superiority. It was about cooperation, about learning from each other. After the exercise, Voss gathered everyone. Good work, all of you. What did we learn today? Various cadets called out observations, better communication, creative thinking, trust in teammates, all good points. Voss nodded.
True.
But here's what I hope you really learned. Different doesn't mean wrong. Humans fight differently than you do. You fight differently than we do. Neither approach is superior. They're just different. The strongest force isn't one that fights one way. It's one that can adapt, that can learn, that can combine strengths. That's what we're building here. She looked around at all of us, human and alien alike. We're not here to replace your methods. We're here to add to them. And hopefully you'll add to ours. Because if this coalition ever faces a real threat, we're going to face it together. And together, combining all our strengths, we'll be unstoppable. It should have sounded like propaganda. Instead, it sounded like truth. That night, a bunch of us gathered in the rec area. Humans and coalition cadets mixing freely now. The fear hadn't disappeared entirely, but it had transformed into something else. Respect, maybe. Curiosity, definitely. Friendship, possibly. Sam was teaching everyone a human game called poker. It's about reading people and managing risk, he explained. Also bluffing. Humans love bluffing. Because you're all insane, Mira teased, and Sam laughed. Maybe a little, but it works. Admiral Webb made an appearance, looking pleased at the mixing. Lucky caught my eye and nodded. No words needed. His message was clear. See? We're just people. And they were complicated, intense, occasionally terrifying people, but people nonetheless. They bled, they feared, they hoped, they dreamed, they made mistakes and learned from them. They were trying, constantly trying, to be better. Elena Voss sat down next to me. So, still scared of us? I considered this. A little. But now I'm also glad you're here. I'll take it, she smiled. For what it's worth, you all impress us too. Your technology is incredible. Your history is rich. You've built something amazing with this coalition. We're honored to be part of it. Even though we're probably not as tough as you, tough comes in different forms, she said seriously. You've maintained peace between dozens of species for centuries. That takes a different kind of strength. Humans are good at fighting. You're good at building. The galaxy needs both. Threx, who'd withdrawn his resignation after all, approached with drinks. Human alcohol is terrifying, he announced. Took at one of their beers and couldn't feel my face for an hour. That's the point, Sam called over. Though maybe we should have warned you about the strength difference. Human alcohol is calibrated for human biology. You could have mentioned that before I drank 3 of them. Everyone laughed, and it felt natural. Easy, like we'd been doing this forever instead of just 2 weeks. I looked around at the gathered cadets, human and otherwise, and realized something.
A command had been right to designate humans as Category Omega.
They were dangerous, potentially galaxy-changing.
Ooh.
Absolutely terrifying when properly motivated. But they were also the best allies we could have asked for, because they brought more than just combat skills. They brought determination, loyalty, creativity and heart. They brought the refusal to give up, the willingness to sacrifice, the commitment to protect others. And maybe most importantly, they brought hope. Hope that different species could work together, that we could learn from each other, that together we could face whatever threats the universe threw at us. 300 humans had arrived at the academy. Half of us had considered resigning in fear. Now most of us couldn't imagine them leaving. Admiral Webb caught me watching them all and raised his glass in a toast. "Yes, to new friends," he called out. "To new friends." Everyone echoed. Human and alien voices blending together. I drank, and I smiled, and I thought about the future, about humanity standing alongside the coalition, about the enemies who would make the mistake of threatening either of us and discovering that humans don't abandon friends, about the galaxy getting very interesting, very quickly. And somewhere in the back of my mind I heard that human diplomat's words from the first contact footage. We don't abandon friends, we don't fight fair, and we absolutely don't quit. No longer a threat. A promise. To us, not against us. I could live with that. We all could. The galaxy had no idea what was coming, but I did, and I was ready. Human cadets and coalition cadets, learning together, fighting together, standing together. The universe was about to discover that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their capacity for violence. It was their capacity for friendship.
And heaven help anyone who threatened their friends.
The party continued late into the night, filled with laughter and stories, and the beginning of bonds that would shape the future. And if some of us still had nightmares about human warfare, well, that was okay. Because now those warriors were on our side. And that made all the difference.